Well, what's up everybody? In this video we're going to do some paper graphics. Got a couple boards here that'll be part of my drop on Friday, and I got to get them finished up. So let's put the graphics on them. So what I got here are my graphics printed out at home with my inkjet printer. Some extra paper towel. I got my scissors that I just used to cut them out. Then I got my boards, which we're going to be putting the graphics on. I got a washcloth down kind of over my work surface. And then I also have a cup of water here so I can kind of rinse my hands off to get the glue off my fingers so I can smooth the graphic down. And I think that's pretty much everything you need, so we can get started. So the first thing you're going to kind of do is just take note of your nose and your tail, which is which. Take one of your graphics and also note which is the nose and tail. Just kind of put that somewhere you can easily grab it. And then the first thing we're going to really do is put our glue on. So I don't know if I mentioned, but for this we're just going to use white Elmer's glue. It's classic school glue. It seems to work well for this purpose, and between this kind of like watery, liquidy glue and the very thin paper, it seems to kind of like paper mache it onto the board, which is kind of the goal. So let's see if we can make that happen here. And I'm just gonna put it regularly all around the board. It's probably way more than I need. That's why I got the cup of water here. So once you get it all on the board, just start smoothing it out and hitting all the surfaces of the board. You want to try and not get it on the sides too much or on the top ply, but it might happen, and if it does, it's okay. You can clean it off later. But first what I like to do is just kind of hit all the surfaces, make sure it's all covered, and then kind of like a squeegee, just kind of wipe some off. So you have a nice like even coat on there. And that's why I got the water here. So I can just kind of quickly get rid of that glue. And just make sure you got the board covered. The most important parts, in my opinion, are really those edges and that nose and tail. You just want to make sure everything has a nice even coating on it so you get good adhesion. And the stuff does dry pretty quick, so definitely want to move kind of quick with it. Okay, so like I said before, take note which is your nose and your tail. And then I'm going to go ahead and put one of these paper towels down so I know I have a totally clean surface. And make sure your fingers are very clean. Grab your graphic. I'm going to put that face down. And I also have a really bright light in front of me here. And the reason for that is so I can quickly check my placement and make sure that I have the graphic in the right spot. So once you do that, then using the washcloth and the paper towel, kind of press into it, press down on the nose, press down on the tail. Try not to pinch the graphic a lot. Try to just kind of press it flat, straight down, and you'll get a nice evenly applied graphic just like so. Grab a clean piece of the paper towel and make sure you're pressed down really good and evenly. And at this point, if you want, you can kind of start hugging the concave. I wouldn't do it too much. Again, you don't want to pinch the paper, especially in these areas here. You just want to flatten it straight down. And then just make sure you have the edges really pressed into the glue. Make sure your fingers are very, very clean when you're doing this. You don't want to get anything on the board itself. I'm just kind of going around making sure that all the edges are nice and tight with the paper. And if you see any air bubbles or anything, put the paper towel on top of it and just press down, and you'll see it kind of smooth out. You don't want to wipe anything because this ink's going to get kind of wet again. as it sits on top of that wet glue. So if you see anything on there you want to like wipe off, don't just kind of like just blow on it instead. And just press that paper down and it'll dry pretty quickly. So I'm going to put this one aside and do the rest of them. So let's repeat that process again. Got another board here. This is one that I messed up in the last video. I was able to spot the issue though before the graphic dried, so I was able to kind of peel it off quickly, and then I was able to sand off the rest of that, and it turned out pretty good. It's super smooth again. So we're just going to go ahead and give this one a round 2. So again, just repeating that same process, smoothing the glue onto the board, getting all those edges and the nose and the tail. And this one I didn't use as much glue on, so I'm kind of able to squeegee as I go. It's probably honestly a better amount to use. It's kind of a less is more situation. Again, grabbing a fresh paper towel, making sure your fingers are clean. Grab a graphic, note which is the nose and tail, and then press down real quick. Check your placement, which this one should be good. I made it super long. Yeah, we're all good. And once you got your placement good, I usually press a little bit side to side, and then do the nose and tail. Trying to go just kind of flat down. You don't want to pinch the graphic again. Just pressing straight down, keeping things as lined up as you can. And I'm just kind of going around on the edges and just making sure the edges are nice and adhered. And this one does feel a little wet. Used a lot of glue there, so I'm just going to put this one aside and let time do its thing, let that dry. And we're going to do the last one. So we got one more here to do. Paper towel stayed clean, so I'll just put it where I need it right there. Making sure my cameras are still recording. Looks good. And we only got one more, so I'm going to just flip this, get a brand new clean surface. I love the wood I used on this board. It's a little bit darker than the rest of them. Looks super cool. Alright, so last one. Let's get it. Again, using our white glue here. Kind of just spreading it regularly around the board. Just hit all those surfaces. Just kind of smoothing it out, trying to get one nice smooth layer there. One of the hardest parts of this is just not getting any glue on the top ply just by accident. Just, handling this thing. But that's why it's good to have the cup of water kind of there on standby. Gotta say that does help a lot. I can get my hands up. There we go, get them dirty right away. Now it's definitely okay if you got some on the edges there. It'll dry and you can easily just kind of sand it off. But you just really want to make sure your glue does go to the edge. So it's okay if it goes over the edge. Just want to go all the way to it. That looks good there. Let's go clean hands again. Got our graphic here. Making sure our surface is nice and dry. And nose and tail, just take a note which is which. Definitely came in a little crooked there. Real quick, let's just check our placement. Looks good. Forgot to put this one down, but it's okay, we can use it now. And that last one I did press a little bit hard, so it's not press as hard this time. Let's just do nose, tail, just kind of dabbing it. And then we'll flip it, and again, check our edges. And you don't want to pinch the graphic, especially in these wheel wells here. You just want to flatten it right to the the board right to the concave. And I just kind of pinch the paper to the edge just to make sure the glue and the paper is meeting right where I need it to. And this one came out very, very nice, very smooth. This is definitely one of those learning things. The first time I did this, I used to mess up a lot more than I would finish, but now I'm starting to finish a lot more than I mess up, so that's good. So the next step is just to let these dry really, really good, and then I'm going to take them outside and we'll get them all finished up. Alright, so we'll be using this Rust-Oleum lacquer gloss clear here to get it nice and shaken up. Alright, nice and shaken up now. So first, just do a very, very light layer on the very top. Alright, so you probably can't tell, but I got a super light layer applied of the clear coat. And what that'll do is kind of stiffen up the paper just a little bit, so that way when we go to sand it, we don't like shred through it. Alright, got my boards here. They're nice and dry now. And I got a metal file. So I'll grab my first one. And what I'm going to do is just sand downward 90 degrees. And only downward, not upward. So just sand downward 90 degrees all the way around the board. Sorry, I'm trying to do this at exactly 90 degrees. And don't sand into it too much, just enough where you can start seeing the edge of the board more. All right, so I've gotten through the first initial layer. So now I'm gonna start using sandpaper to do the edges. And just sand it very lightly and take your time. Let the sandpaper and just a little bit of pressure do the job. And try as much as you can to sand just against the edge of the board, not the top of it, because you want the graphic to break at the edge and not on the top. You don't want like a line around your graphic. You want it to go all the way to the edge and then be cut off. So try to sand as much as you can, just downward to the edge. And you'll feel it when you start to catch that contour. There you see I just broke a piece off there, starting to kind of punch through. And because we clear coated it first, we have a very, very nice clean edge. And it didn't like tear or rip through. So I'm just gonna keep working it until we get all of the sanded off. There we go, you'll see it's breaking away nice and cleanly, and we're almost done. All right, so there is our board, nice and sanded. And check the edges, you'll probably see, I don't know if you can really see on camera, but in some of the edges it kind of bleeds over. So use your sandpaper to just go against the edge of the board and make sure the graphic goes right to that edge and cuts off. Good. All right, so we got 2 more to go. 1 more to go. Let's do it. First thing I'm gonna do, grab the metal file and sand all the way around 90 degrees straight down. And this just kind of breaks through that first layer and shows us where the contour line of the board is. And I like using these diamond files, these chainsaw files, for a lot of things. They're great for grip tape, and they work well for this process too. This one's definitely starting to get a little bit dull though. Alright, so we can see our contour for the most part. So I'm going to switch to some sandpaper that I have here and just kind of continue the process. Just just going all the way around. And make sure you sand against the edge, like I said. You don't want to sand the actual top of the board. You want to sand the edge, that way your graphic goes right to there and then cuts off. And you can sand a variety of ways here. Usually the nose and tail, I'll sand straight down, but on the sides, I'll kind of like work the side to kind of get things free, to get the board loose. But on the nose and tail, kind of helps to hold the board like so, and then sand the edge. But on the side here, it's kind of useful to just take the paper and making sure you're not doing the top of the board, just the side. Just kind of sand through that paper. And always sand just the side of the board. You don't want to sand into the actual graphic that you want to use or see. So there we go. There is number 3, and these are ready for clear coat now. At this stage too, give all your boards a good once over to make sure the graphics are adhered all the way to the concave. If anything looks like it's peeling off or separating off or anything like that, try to resolve it by either sanding off that edge, because it's probably just the paper is over the edge of that spot, or try to add more glue, but probably don't want to do that at this stage. You probably want to avoid that as much as you can. Thankfully, I don't see any separations on these boards, so they're good for clear coat. They look very nice and adhered all the way around. Check for any extra glue spots as well. If you see any glue that's caked up anywhere on the plies, try to get that off at this step now. It's way easier to get it off now than it will be later when it's kind of has clear coat kind of caked all on it. So now I'll start applying light layers of clear coat one at a time until each board's nice and glossy. So just go super, super light with it. I usually go one way and then go to the other side, hit the other side. You really want to make sure you hit those edges in there, make sure the clear coat's also helping the graphic adhere, help it stay down. And just give it time to dry before you do any more layers. So build it up just a little bit at a time. And in this stage, you can kind of start clearing out any of the extra glue from the holes as well. So I'm just going to kind of keep going around, lining up the truck and the axle, or lining up the axle and the screw hole and just punching it right through. And it seems to be working actually pretty well. I'll usually use a drill bit and feed it through one way. So just kind of push it through one way, pull it through the other. That way the paper kind of gets pulled into the board and out the other side versus getting like pushed out this way. I usually don't like poking the holes and then pulling things back through like so, because sometimes it'll pull the paper with it, but this seems to be doing a fairly good job, and I think it's because of the threads on the end of the axle. They're kind of grabbing things and pushing it through and either taking it back with it or leaving it on the other side. And anything that gets stuck over here is probably just due to having too much glue in that screw hole. So just use the axle to push it through and then see if you can grab it. That way you can kind of clear that out. And up top, some of these do still have some glue in there, so I'll go through with an X-Acto blade. And just kind of grab those and pull them out. It's kind of an annoying step, but it's definitely, I'd rather do this at this step than have the customer have to like deal with their screws like pushing through this. All right, so there's one. This is number 2 right here, which I didn't really assess these yet. All right, looks good. Just got one more to go here. And last one. Now I'll go ahead and just check these, make sure, just check these, make sure you got all the glue out. And there we go, we got 3 decks with some nice clean holes in them now. So the last step here will be to take them back outside and do one last layer of clear coat. Alright, it's been a couple hours, everything has dried, and we are all done. And I gotta say, these came out awesome. They adhered perfectly. Every single one looks great. And just a quick recap of what we did. We used Elmer's all-purpose glue, just old school white glue, to adhere some paper graphics onto these fingerboards. And these graphics were just printed at home with an inkjet printer on some very, very cheap Staples paper. I kind of swear by it. I feel like between the very thin paper and the wet glue, you get a really, really nice adhesion right to the concave of the board. Like, these look really, really good, and I'm super hyped. So once they were adhered, I applied a thin coat of lacquer clear coat to the entire board to kind of stiffen up the paper. And then once that was dry, I began the process of sanding off all the excess paper, first using a diamond file and then using sandpaper. And the grits I used, I believe, were like 400 and 600 or 400 and 800, something like that. Basically just using like a pretty fine sandpaper to just break through the surface. And because we gave that paper a little bit of clear coat before we started sanding, you'll notice it'll break off like very, very cleanly, and you won't get that ripped paper edge. You'll get a very nice clean edge. So after we got all that excess paper removed, I used some more of that lacquer clear coat to seal everything in and give these boards a nice overall clear coat. And then lastly, I punched the holes out using a tech deck truck, but you can also do that a little more cleanly and simply just using a drill bit. And I usually feed it in one way, just pushing it in one way and pulling it out the other. But I was surprised that tech deck truck did work really well. Gave me some very nice clean screw holes in there, and these look really, really nice. And I gotta say too, these decks do wear pretty cool as well. This is my personal one here that I've been skating for the past couple weeks or so, and I've been loving it. It's been shredding. It's got a nice long wheelbase, which I like, and I love that big nose and kind of that medium concave. It just has so much pop. But focusing on the graphic, I gotta say, the graphic has been wearing in very, very nicely. Because that paper is so thin and so adhered to the board, it's wearing really, really well. It's kind of wearing very similar to a real wear graphic. And it looks pretty cool, I think. So I'll put a close-up of it so y'all can see, and I'll show you all the finished boards as well. But leave a like and a comment down below if you got any questions, if you learned something, or if you got any suggestions for the next video. So that's about it. I will see you in the next one. Don't forget, I drop new fingerboard content every single week. So be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you back here next week. Until next time, keep shredding. And don't forget, big drop coming on Friday this Halloween. anxietyoffline.com. Use the code YouTube3 to save $3. And that's about it. So I'm out. Peace.